Hello, all. Welcome to the weekly write-up with your host, Kavals. This week is going to be less of a specific and more of just a general thing, which is that of ambition and inspiration. The reason why I picked this topic this week is because over the past few days, I've started to realize that it's mostly comes down to the fact that some of the ideas I was using, such as having, wanting to do the whole multi-class system, that was just not going to be applicable. And that was largely due to the fact that it was such an ambitious idea. The key in any work that you're going to do is to make sure that your ambitions just aren't completely far-fetched, aren't something that complicates everything just because you want to have it. The reason why I'm saying this is because of the fact that honestly, it's much easier to work with my new idea of giving each person subclasses rather than having an overall class system. And quickly going to mention the scripts that it's not scripts in this one, but the plugins that allow me to do this are from Yanflies. Probably will include a link to his channel in case any of you already have RPG Maker MV. But anyways, instead of having it just be like an overall class change system, that I'm going to make it so that way the things that are really change are only in subclasses. And the reason why is because it allows me to have more of a specific feel for a character. Which is where inspiration comes into play. The only reason why I'd been wanting to do not the only reason, but a major contributor to the reason why I wanted to do a overall multi-class system was because I had been playing the Bravely Second game a lot the last few weeks, and I liked the system, but when you're dealing with 28 characters, it's just not possible to make it so that way the system fits. Not only on that point, but from my story standpoint as well. You should always make sure that having a clear and cohesive story takes precedent over trying to implement various things because of ambition. Because as I am going to say this, I can't quite speak for anyone when I say this, but it's good to have ambition and ambitious ideas when you're writing, but you should never let ambition prevent you from making your story just a complete mess, because otherwise people aren't going to take interest in it. While there are those that do create for their own interests, it's fine to do that, but if you're looking at creating a work of fiction that you want people to take interest in, you need to make sure that the ideas that you want, that your ambitions are driving you to put into your work, do not completely compete with having a clear story that has a beginning, middle, and an end. or just just completely adds in all this complicated stuff that people would probably be like, okay, this is too complex. I don't understand any of this. I want out. As for inspiration, this more takes place with characters, because I'd have to say that while I do have a good number of characters that seem original, some of them are very clear, like, I mean, you can't see it, but some of them are very clearly inspired, because well, first off, probably the best one to do for that would have to be, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, Sam. That would be a pretty good example. And the reason why she's a good example is because Sam is pretty much directly inspired by Aigis from Persona 3. Mostly just because of the fact that I liked the idea of the whole humanoid robot. And plus, she was, I guess, was one of my favorite characters from that. Anyways, it's fine to take inspiration, but you want to make sure, like, you shouldn't feel bad for taking inspiration from stuff. It's completely fine to do that. However, you should try to limit yourself so that way you don't end up just completely mimicking someone's ideas. At least if you're trying to make something official that you're like, yeah, I want to sell this. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of the fact that then you have the issues of copyright, which could potentially, like, if things are too similar, people are gonna go like, oh, this is just worse version of this, or something, or it's, oh, this is a copycat of this. Because honestly, in this day and age, it's kind of hard to avoid that, so it's better to try and keep your characters as unique as possible while using inspiration to get, like, the basic ideas. Again, this is all just my opinion. Yeah, I'd say that ambition and inspiration are relatively intertwined, because inspiration feeds into ambition. Because you see something in one work, and you're like, if it clicks with you, you're like, oh yeah, I want to do this in one of my own works, in its own different way, on your own unique way. So I had seen the Bravely Default job system, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to have some variation of this. Again, this also applies to how I was going to have that be driven by a link system, sort of like the social links from Persona. However, because I was just trying to draw inspiration from too many places at once and trying to put them together, it just kind of collapsed in on itself. I'm pretty sure that what I'm saying isn't clear and cohesive like I was saying stories and whatnot should be. But this is not a story, it's just my opinion on the matters of the ambition and inspiration. because ambition is definitely it's definitely one of the greatest double-edged swords in creative work. Just because it can help to make make the inspired ideas unique and have a sense of originality to them. Yet at the same time, if it can just create stress, complexity, unnecessary complexity at that. And it could always lead to your attempts backfiring. Probably the example where I could say that's the case for at least my particular story is originally I had this idea of it being like the whole Link's driving everything, and that just the reason why it didn't work was because of the fact that I couldn't find a way to make it fit into the story well. And it also created complexity with the ending, which just made it so that way I couldn't come up with any ideas for a while. Couldn't draw at all. All I could really do was just kind of just brainstorm. However, I now have more of a direction after stepping back away from my work. And now I'm realizing that having something that what I'm currently doing still allows me to have that whole you can change up how the characters fight. Isn't just this character will always be this, and there will always be a character that can do this better than them, as would probably end up being the case with Yorgis and, well, maybe not Yorgis, but Jester and Rurik, because I believe Rurik is gonna have a lot of stuff that allows him to go through armor, while Jester, he's basically a berserker who does physical damage with life steal with his abilities costing life. And while that does make him more unique in his playing style, the issue is that I probably need to. Yeah, I definitely need to read this long. The issue with it is that this basically creates a divide of. This basically creates a power game. Because it's sort of like, oh yeah, they both do physical damage, yet Jester is more risky than Rurik, and Rurik can actually pull off more damage because, unlike Jester, his attacks ignore defense. Which is where part of the reason why I had originally come up with having the more job style system, is because I didn't want, I wanted people to be able to just go like, yeah, these are my 4 favorite characters, I'm going to use them, rather than it being like, oh yeah, I'm just going to use these characters because they can work. Make this the easiest. Because I found that that's one of my issues in the games that I really enjoy, is that I end up just picking 4 characters and sticking with them. So that sort of inspired me to try and make a way in a game to actually make a system that allows people to just go like, oh, I like the style of this character, and they actually like. I want there to be diversity, and enough of that people aren't just always going like, oh yeah, healer, tank, magic damage, physical damage. Because while that will still play a role in the game, of course, it's kind of hard to get away from that. It'll be a bit more, there will be more choices, hopefully. Or so that way people are, like, probably the best example of something this would be how I've essentially created 2 ideas for tanks. Score would be the first example of a tank. The second example would be Amelia. Score is more of your traditional tank where he's sword and board. He draws an aggro and blocks it with a shield. However, Amelia is more like is the less traditional one because in comparison to Score, who's sword and board and just tries to block everything, Amelia would be more focused on countering. Essentially, adjusting to this flow of combat. And the reason why it would be a riskier but more rewarding style of tank. Because while they would be taking damage still, they can also counter and get more damage out. I sort of got sidetracked here, but what can you do? The point is, make sure that to try and use your ambition, but if it's not working out, then you need to step away from your work. Get some inspiration from other sources, and then go back and see if you can make that ambition that turn into essentially work in a way that would make it so that way it's not preventing you from work. It's not stressing you out. Because the root problem is that typically it's easy to get fixated on just one idea of how you want it to work, and just introducing just a little bit of inspiration from some other story might give you an idea of how to make it work. Probably the example I can give of this is that part of the reason why I came up with the whole subclassing system in this style, where it's more of titles and whatnot, is because I had found a story where well, maybe not story, but I just had remembered about how some and remembered. It was basically that I had found that, oh yeah, there's title systems where the titles themselves give abilities. And that allows me to, gave me an idea of, oh yeah, I could make it so that way each person has their own unique stuff. So I believe that about wraps it up. This weekly write-up. Sorry for not uploading a video yesterday. That was partially due to the fact that I had gotten caught up in playing Borderlands 2, and that's just because I enjoy that right now. So, this has been yours, Cavalis, and I will see you all whenever. Goodbye.